A few years back, we started our show to help others interested in exploring the Pacific Northwest and eventually the rest of the world.
Inspired by the spirit of the Negro Motorist Green Book, we wanted to be a valuable resource to Black and BIPOC travelers while connecting them to some of the most amazing places.
What's unique about our show is not only do we showcase spectacular destinations, but we also rate our experiences for how comfortable we felt visiting as Black travelers.
In every episode right here, we will show you some of those destinations as well as their comfort rating. I'm Anthony Love.
And I'm Marlie Love. Come along with us on
Traveling While Black. Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Anthony.
And I'm Marlie, and welcome to another episode of Traveling While Black with Anthony and Marlie.
Now look, we think all of our episodes are special in their own way, but this one feels a little extra special to us.
That's because in this episode, we're not just sharing stories about inspiring individuals, we're sharing stories from our very own family, and we're diving into an important topic within our Black community, the concept of ownership.
Yep, ownership is such a vital topic, and we're proud to highlight the stories of our family members, both past and present, who have been incredible examples for us. Their journeys have inspired us and played a huge role in our decision to pursue our own entrepreneurial dreams.
So let's jump into this very special TWB episode on Black ownership in America. We hope you enjoy it.
Malcolm X once said, "Land is the basis of all independence. Land is the basis of freedom, justice, and equality." While he's speaking specifically about land, his words highlight the importance of ownership overall in achieving true independence and equality, especially for people who are brought to this country to be property.
In recent years, the importance of ownership within the Black community has become an increasingly important concept, a concept that influences economic empowerment, self-determination, and creating generational wealth. And it goes beyond just owning businesses. It extends to land, homes, intellectual property, and other resources that can drive change and independence.
Both of us having been born in the state of Missouri, seeing this concept in action firsthand was extremely impactful, especially if you consider the state's Civil War and Reconstruction history. Even by just looking at the area in which we lived in during the time we grew up, you can really understand why the impact would be so great.
We were born and raised on the east side of the state, right across the river from St. Louis County, in our home county of St. Charles, a county comprised of several cities, including both of ours, the city of Wentzville for me and the county seat of St. Charles for Marlie.
Today, the county is the third most populous county in Missouri, along with the largest economies, thanks to being host to large corporations such as General Motors, MasterCard, and Boeing. Being that a majority of our formative years were during its transition of becoming one of the fastest growing counties in not only the state, but Midwest overall, we can say that the place it is today was definitely not the same place we grew up, specifically on the surface.
To truly understand where we're coming from, let's just look at our hometowns today versus when we grew up. Today, the population of Marlie's hometown, St. Charles, sits just over 72,000. But between 1980 and the year 2000, the average population was just under 59,000. It gets wilder in regard to my hometown of Wentzville, which today has a population of around 48,000. But between 1980 and the year 2000, the average population was only around 5,500.
But it is our hometown's racial demographics that really speak to why Black ownership was so impactful to us. See, in St. Charles, it wasn't until the year 2000 that the Black population reached 2%.
And in Wentzville, it was the same story, although by 2020, it jumped to 12%. Interestingly, but probably not surprising to you math heads out there, that the continued increase in the city's population has led to a decrease in the Black population percentage, as it is just half of that today.
Despite the low percentage of Black residents, we grew up feeling safe while making friendships, some lifelong, with people who did and didn't look like us. Thinking about it, I suppose our familiarity with growing up there and also knowing where to find our Black community is probably why, despite growing up in cities with low Black population percentages, we were still in a culture shock when we moved to the Pacific Northwest.
Most importantly, what these numbers highlight is that why, growing up, whenever we would come across, or in some cases, as you will see here, new Black people who own property or businesses, it was extra inspiring. That's why for this episode, we will be sharing a few of those stories from individuals within our own family, both past and present. Also, bringing it full circle to show you how all of them have inspired our own journey into entrepreneurship.
We are thrilled to share these stories that are so personal to us, and hopefully they inspire you as much as us and reinforces such an important concept. This is TWB's presentation of Black ownership in America.
There you have it, a quick introduction to the concept of Black ownership, and we hope you enjoyed the deeper look into the area where we actually grew up. And as we mentioned earlier, the familiarity and knowing where to find our Black community probably helped us feel more grounded despite living in cities with a very low Black population. But even with that, moving to the Pacific Northwest was still a major culture shock.
True that. But it was really cool sharing more insight into our hometowns with you all. But what's going to be even more meaningful is sharing the stories of our very own family members who've inspired us along the way. So be sure to come back after the break. You don't want to miss it.
Welcome back. For the rest of this episode, we'll be diving into some inspiring stories from our very own family, starting with one of Anthony's distant relatives whose story turned out to be even more incredible than he had imagined.
And that's so true. That relative was my great-great-great-grandfather, Benjamin Oglesby. I didn't hear much about him growing up. In fact, it wasn't until I was in my 30s that I learned his story. On this episode, with the help of a local historian and genealogist, we're sharing his journey and how he, along with other former slaves, pursued ownership.
And also, check out some of the great work being done by the National Underground Railroad Network to Freedom.
A few years ago, I got a records notification from my Ancestry.com account. It was for Benjamin Oglesby, a man I will come to learn as my great-great-great-grandfather. What I discovered through that record completely blew my mind and filled me with pride. But when it comes to Benjamin's contributions to Black ownership, that was just half of the story.
While Benjamin's ownership story began in St. Charles County, Missouri, his journey actually started in an entirely different state.
Benjamin Oglesby was born in Virginia, and like so many others, he was brought to Missouri in the 1830s because Missouri, and especially St. Charles County, was a really good place, a new young state where the land was cheap, and all those tobacco and hemp farmers loved to bring their huge property of enslaved people here to Missouri, and that's what established Missouri.
Grandpa Benjamin eventually found himself living on the western side of St. Charles County, where he was enslaved alongside several others on a 267-acre farm. By 1863, with the Civil War raging on for nearly 2 years, Benjamin was determined to gain his freedom. That same year, Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, and Benjamin saw it as the perfect opportunity to take action and change his life forever.
Now, with the Emancipation Proclamation, on January 1st, 1863, when Lincoln issued that, it did not free the enslaved people here in Missouri or in St. Charles County. In September of 1863, Benjamin Oglesby decided that he wanted to join Lincoln's Union troops. He, in order to join the Union Army, could ask his enslaver, and there were people that were pro-Union that owned slaves and said yes. But his was not one of them.
But just like the generations of kinfolk who came after him, he refused to let anyone or anything stop him from pursuing his dreams.
He had to flee via what we call the Underground Railroad. And he escaped his enslaver, leaving behind his wife and their children, and he made his way to the city of St. Charles on the Missouri River and made his way there to join the Union troops.
Benjamin joined the infantry of the Union's U.S. colored troops, where he served bravely and saw action on the battlefield. After the war ended, he was honorably discharged and received his bounty. Well, most of it.
Eventually, Benjamin purchased property where he and his family could live and farm. But what truly cemented his legacy were the actions he took alongside some other former slaves.
These men, these families, there were 9 of them, pooled their money to fund 1 acre of land about 1 mile away from his farm. They pooled their land to buy 1 acre for a church named Smith Chapel and to create a schoolhouse. So their children were getting an education in that 1-room classroom called Douglas School, named for Frederick Douglass.
Thanks to the action of Benjamin and those other families, Black children in St. Charles County were able to receive an education. Black families had a place to worship, and through the creation of Smith Chapel Cemetery, Black residents had a dignified place to be laid to rest, including Benjamin's family and Benjamin himself.
Today, on the land that was once Benjamin Oglesby's farm, the same land generations of his family would enjoy long after him, including my mother and her Uncle Stan, who you'll hear more about later in the episode, stands a park that the city thoughtfully named in Benjamin's honor, Oglesby Park.
And thanks to a grant from the National Underground Railroad's Network to Freedom program, Smith Chapel Cemetery is set to receive a much-needed renovation as well.
These people created Smith Chapel Cemetery. This is where they would bury all of their loved ones and their families. There are many people buried there today that we only know the name of, that don't have a headstone. And the cemetery is maintained still by your family members and others of the Wesley Smith Church. The National Underground Railroad does care about sites like this. Now, the National Underground Railroad, the Network to Freedom, which is part of the national parks, recognized this program last year as part of the Network to Freedom for these freedom seekers, these people who were so determined. The National Underground Railroad's grant program is currently funding a grant that will allow the church to restore the headstones there, to research out the names of all of those who are buried there, and to properly be able to educate everyone about the meaning of the people like Benjamin Oglesby that came together for buying 1 acre of land to be used for a church.
The funding is enough to even bring in help from one of the local community colleges.
With the help of the St. Charles County Community College, we and their students will be researching the names, and we will be creating signage that will share with the world and for those who come to visit us in St. Charles, and even our own people can learn more about these people and their lives and their stories and what they went through and who they are and how something like Smith Chapel came to be. These stories need to be told. They are part of our American history, and they're important to all of us. And that's one of the things that I like about the Network to Freedom. And I invite anybody that would like to visit it to let us know.
We're really excited to see the restoration work completed, and we can't wait to check it out firsthand. Of course, we'll be sharing that story with you, so be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss it when the episode drops.
As for Benjamin specifically, his legacy is absolutely one to be proud of, and as you will see later in the episode, it is a legacy that continues to inspire his descendants to this day. So to my great-great-great-grandfather, Benjamin Oglesby, thank you. What's wild to think about is that there isn't a single picture or portrait of Benjamin Oglesby. But according to his Army enrollment card, he was described as, quote, copper-skinned with gray eyes, black hair, and standing 5 feet 8 inches tall.
And a special thanks to Doris for her incredible contributions and expertise in this episode. And don't forget to check out our website, travelingwhileblackseattle.com, for updates on how you can help preserve sites like Smith Chapel Cemetery and many others.
After the break, we'll be sharing stories of some present-day family members who have served as inspiring examples of Black entrepreneurship and continue to push forward the concept of Black ownership.
You don't want to miss this. Trust us. Be sure to come back.
Welcome back. Now it's time for us to share some stories of family members we've actually had the privilege of knowing. And as you'll see, their stories are just as inspiring as Benjamin's.
And we'll start with 2 of my family members who, like Benjamin, left their homes, established businesses, and built strong communities. And then we'll introduce you to 2 more of Benjamin's descendants who pursued ownership right in Missouri, including St. Charles County.
One of those incredible people is my mom. And to wrap it up, we'll show you how all of these family members have inspired Marlie and I on our own entrepreneurial journeys.
We're so excited to show this segment to you, so be sure to take a look.
We mentioned earlier how the demographics of our hometown amplified the impact of seeing Black individuals pursue ownership. But let me tell you, when those individuals were part of our own family, that impact hit even harder.
In this episode, we're introducing you to a few of those family members and sharing just a little bit of their entrepreneurial journey. We'll start with two people from my family. Both were born in the same hometown as me, but each decided to take their talents to another state and build a legacy there. Let's begin with my Uncle Tommy.
My name is Thomas Stevenson. I am the CEO, owner of the A-Team Moving and Storage.
And my Aunt Melissa.
Hi, I'm Melissa Murdoch. I am the CEO and president of Melissa M. Stevenson's Incorporated, DBA Stevenson's Office Systems.
Both my uncle and aunt left St. Charles, Missouri and headed west on Interstate 70 to Aurora, Colorado. While they ended up in the same city, their journeys and their businesses were completely different. My Uncle Tommy's company, A-Team Moving and Storage, is a well-known local moving company that has been successfully operating for over 30 years.
We are a very professional relocation company. The services we offer are residential, commercial relocations.
And on how we got into the moving relocation business, well, I'll let him tell that.
It just more or less fell into my lap. People just kept calling me. Different companies around town and really never had to advertise. We were doing such great work in the community that folks just kept referring us. Just kind of grew and grew. And it's all worked out very well.
As for my Aunt Melissa, not only are her business services different, but as a Black woman, it's no surprise that her journey through the business world came with its own unique challenges, eventually leading her to her entrepreneurial calling.
Melissa M. Stevenson's Incorporated was actually founded in 1990, and we are an office design, space planning, construction management firm that provides furnishings to governmental agencies, corporate clients, and educational facilities.
Unlike Uncle Tommy, whose path to becoming a business owner was somewhat unexpected,
It just came to me.
Aunt Melissa, on the other hand, was more intentional about her decision to step into entrepreneurship.
I think I've always had that entrepreneurial spirit, wanting to be in charge of my own manifest destiny, not wanting someone else to control when I would be able to go on vacation, how much time I could spend with my kids. And as an employee, the employer has control over all that.
Fortunately for Aunt Melissa, she had some great people around her to mentor her and help her learn the ropes.
I was absolutely blessed because I had strong mentors, not only my father, but also a gentleman by the name of Arnold Day, the late Arnold Day, who was an excellent business person and who was instrumental in helping me maneuver through some of those first business things that people go through.
And that quality mentorship that helped her build a successful business is something she now readily passes on to aspiring business owners.
One of the philosophies that I've always had is know the answer to what if. And that's what I tell a lot of people that start business today or sometimes hesitant about starting business. I think what if allowed me to be able to solidify the importance of ownership.
And one thing Uncle Tommy and Aunt Melissa did in common was credit their parents, my grandparents, for giving them a great foundation.
As for my family, I know for a fact that these two individuals would make my great-great-great-grandpa Benjamin proud. Let's start with my Uncle Stan.
My name is Stanley Luckett. I'm the owner of Stan's Unica Salon, and then I own Luckett's Lounge.
Benjamin was actually Uncle Stan's great-grandfather. Uncle Stan vividly remembers growing up playing on the very same farm Benjamin purchased way back in the 1800s. But Uncle Stan eventually left the, at the time, sleepy town of Wentzville and headed to St. Louis, where he made a name for himself in both the hair and liquor businesses. His success might have come from his remarkable ability to serve everybody. And I mean everybody.
Well, in the hair business, it was unique because I did both men and women's hair. First started out as a barber. When the Afro came in, I ended up with a lot of ladies coming into my salon. So then I had to go back to school to learn how to do women's hair. There was a lot of training. I ended up with a master's in cosmetology.
Ironically, Uncle Stan's venture into the liquor business happened to be because ownership was passed down to him by an older family member.
My uncle was about 90 years old and asked me to take over Luckett's Lounge. In 1988, I took over that business. I enjoyed it so much, I continued to operate that business until 2021.
Uncle Stan's skill and innovation helped him make a name for himself in the hair industry on a national level. Those same qualities also made his bar one of the most popular spots on St. Louis's famous Del Mar Avenue.
When I first went into business, very few blacks played darts, and I wanted to change that because I fell in love with darts. So my uncle put a dart machine at 6 shops, and we started playing. Members of the St. Louis Tavern Association, we played each other, and the dart players loved it. We ended up with over 40 lounges. It got to be the biggest money-making thing in the industry, you know.
Yes, Uncle Stan carried the entrepreneurial legacy of generations before him to even greater heights. But he didn't have to wait long for a relative to follow in his footsteps. My mom.
Hi, I'm Marlie Love, and I'm the owner and founder of Barb's Touch of Class at Winsfield. I watched my Uncle Stan, my mom's brother, and I watched him in business. And we used to go down and sit in his shop, and I loved watching him do the hair when I knew that I liked hair. And I love clothes. I love just being in front of people to deal with people. So I decided that not only would I become a cosmetology and do hair in this salon, but I would sell beauty supplies, I would sell clothes.
Marlie Love, already a mom at the time, finally decided to answer the ownership calling that ran in her blood.
So I decided that I wanted to go out and become a business owner. But in order to do that, I needed to get something as far as schooling to get better at what I was doing to be worthy of charging people.
So while raising 3 kids, my mom took the first step by enrolling in cosmetology school. Before she even graduated, a chance encounter, one she says was inspired by God, led her closer to achieving her entrepreneurial vision.
The story of me opening up Barb's Touch of Class, I always think it was led by God. In the middle of me going to beauty school, I was going to dinner after I just finished being at the school. It's like God told me to go this way, a different way than normal. And when I was going that way, I saw a business that was saying for rent. And on that particular day, I had no plans of looking for a building, looking to start my business, and I stopped in there to look at it. The man was packing up that was in there then. He was out of nowhere, I asked about renting the building, and he said that I would have to wait on the owner. And he said, but he never comes here, so you won't see. And then by the grace of God, the owner of the building pulls up. And this is why I know that it was for me, because the owner comes in, he listened to why I wanted to have it, but he said for some reason, he wanted to rent to me. It was God telling him to rent it to me.
Barb's Touch of Class opened its doors, and it was an instant hit. But customers didn't just walk away with the great hairstyles and top fashion. They got so much more.
I could see God just working and telling me that not only would I do hair, but I would be there for people in the community. So people started coming out to see what I was doing in there.
Through the personal connections my mother built through her business, she became a respected and honored leader within the community. One of her major contributions was starting the city's very first annual MLK Day celebration and march. The city showed its appreciation by honoring her with her very own Marlie Love Day. Like all of our family members, my mother continues to make us proud and serves as a constant source of inspiration.
And they're all deeply aware of how the impact of their accomplishments can resonate with the generations of family that come after them.
You know what? I hope they take from it that I led by example, that if Auntie Melissa can do this, then I can do it also. I witnessed and saw her ability to change the dynamics in the community, in the school system, and other places, simply from business ownership.
Reasons me starting my business is that I had 3 kids, and I wanted to leave a legacy that they could be inspired and be happy and proud. All I wanted them to say is Marlie Love made a difference.
As far as we're concerned, mission accomplished. Each of you has definitely been an inspiration to Anthony and I. In 2024, we both left our full-time careers to focus on building our travel brand, Traveling While Black. Every single one of the individuals featured in this episode, along with others, played a huge role in fueling our decision to take that leap.
Like Uncle Tommy and Aunt Melissa, we left our hometowns to build something new. Like Uncle Stan and my mom, we built a business rooted in our love for serving people. Like great-great-grandfather Benjamin, we stepped away from the familiar to join the fight for ownership in America, a pursuit of true freedom.
Wow. After watching that, there's not really much more to say, especially to the incredible individuals we just mentioned in the segment, other than thank you for all your continued inspiration.
Absolutely. And we hope you all enjoyed this very special episode. And remember, you can catch all of our adventures at our YouTube channel at Traveling While Black. Be sure to subscribe.
And don't forget to follow us on Instagram at TravelWhileBeOK and TikTok at TravelingWhileBeOK.
Well, until next time, beautiful people, stay up, stay true, and do you.
It's gonna be alright, yeah, yeah. How can you tell? Yeah, yeah. I feel it in my heart, yeah, yeah. It's gonna be okay, yeah, yeah. The sun is shining bright unto another day, yeah, yeah. It's gonna be alright. It's gonna be okay.